Good evening, Salam Alaikum, Namaskar. I am Ashok Garlapati from J&A Bharat HSE Foundation. On behalf of our foundations, J&A Bharat as well as J&A Global HSE Foundations, we welcome you all for this 29th Outreach and Knowledge Transfer. We call it as a OKT webinar on a very important topic today, an insight into ethical challenges faced by the global HSE professionals and define them through interactive discussions. We have a subject matter expert with us on this for this webinar today, and we are going to have a wonderful session. Before that, we would like to have a brief introduction about virtual meetings so that we will have a smooth proceedings of this particular webinar. Kindly mute your microphone as well as you raise the hand whenever you want to speak. We preferably to speak to you during the Q&A session. We have scheduled, we have organized like that. And kindly switch off your camera and switch on when you want to speak. Post your queries, comments, suggestions in the chat box. The meeting is being recorded for future references purposes. Kindly register your name, company, designation, phone, email ID in the chat box. And please stay for the ceremony group photo at the end of the vote of thanks. And again, you can copy the meeting link and share with your friends for joining. And as you see on the right side, there is a small QR code there. That QR code takes you to our WhatsApp group, Knowledge Hub WhatsApp group, where we have a 450 plus members from all around the world, where you can exchange the information on the spot basis. And our Mr. Dinesh, who is our chair for the HSE Communications and Leadership Skills, he is the first who responds to such queries. He is also available on this call today. With that, we would like to brief you that this webinar is going to be in two parts. In the part one is our routine part, but we have two interesting announcements in this part one, and that will go for 10 to 12 minutes. In the part two, we'll be listening to our subject matter expert, Mr. James Boretti, on the topic of today's discussion, which is an insight into ethical challenges faced by the global HSE professionals and define them through interactive discussions. And in the part one, we'll be briefly talking about our foundation. Before that, we would like to give the floor to our founding trustee, Mr. Jeetu Patel. Mr. Jeetu Patel is known to all around the world for mostly all the safety professionals knows him as a father of safety. He has got a 40 plus years of experience in ASSP membership and 55 plus years of experience in the health, safety, and environment field. And we both have done a lot of things together. And before that, we would like to request Mr. Jeetu Patel for his brief welcome remarks. Mr. Jeetu.
Thank you, Ashok ji. Good day to all. Respected honored guests, starting with Mr. James Boretti, our keynote speaker, Professor Ramna Garuji, Dr. Lakshmi Narayan Garuji, our honored guest, Dr. Jaina Clark, who won the Presidential Award for Distinguished Teaching in recognition of introducing multiculturalism, Dr. Varsha Reddy from London, corporate dignitaries, educators, HSE, and other professional leaders and distinguished delegates. On behalf of JNA Bharat and JNA Global HSE Foundation, a very warm welcome to you all. Everyone knows my great friend and co-founding trustee, Ashok Garlapati, for his remarkable contributions to the HSE profession, who has also developed countless number of HSE professionals globally. I'm proud to share that Ashok is doing a phenomenal job acting and working as the president of Board of Certified Safety Professionals effective from January 1, 2024. He was recognized with the most prestigious highest well-honor award offered by the American Society of Safety Professionals, which is the oldest and the largest HSE professional organization. That says it all. Ashok ji, as you promised, please go over briefly about our two foundations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jeetu, for kind introduction. Yes, we will have a brief introduction about our foundations because we have two outstanding guests and first time attending. Many people are attending our foundation OKT sessions first time. So as you see this world map, there are little blue flags in the world map. These are the countries where Mr. Jeetu and myself together have some contributions to in these countries to the HSE professionals, either through the platform of ASSP or through the BCSP or through the IOSH UK. But we have done so much in these countries, and we wanted to do something more to India. And because this foundation concept is new to India, we have a ASSP foundation, we have a BCSP foundation. When we approach to them that we want to have an international wing of these foundations, but those two organizations have come back to us saying that IRS, like income tax in India, IRS rules do not allow any such foundations for the international, specifically for international countries. So we started working on that, and they said they will extend their full support to us. So today we are seeing these two foundations. One is a Bharat specific, as well as another one is a global specific. And the left side, you see the ILO, which is International Labour Organization, statistics of the global deaths related to industrial accidents. Unfortunately, India is standing on the top, and we wanted to do something more to India by bringing the concept of the foundations. With that concept, we started our foundation on 25th March 2022, which was, of course, virtually launched due to the COVID during those days. And our foundation is not at all a membership organization. It's a completely purely charity-oriented organization. We work with the professionals, we work with the corporate organizations, we work with the academic institutions. We also work with the individuals like Dr. J.N. Clark attending today. And that's our intention, giving back. We are providing the platform, giving back. It's not only the financial support, it is also the knowledge. That's what we are giving today. So we have our vision, mission, and objectives. Again, as simple as that. Our mission, vision is very simple: to support the HSE profession, and as well as extend our helping hand to the HSE professionals. So we have the objectives: to advance the occupational safety and health profession, to support and promote occupational safety health as a career choice among the students, to inspire the leaders in safety, health, and environment, to provide educational developmental opportunities, and to recognize individuals, to collaborate with the universities, to have a MOUs with the similar objectives, with the similar, by signing a memorandum of understanding with the similar organizations. So that's what we registered this foundation in India as well as in Arizona for the global. So we are officially, as per the government rules and regulations, it has been registered. We have 3 programs in place now. One is the J&A Keval Shanti Scholarship Program. This particular program is sponsored by the Madam Dhruti Thakkar from New Jersey. As part of this scholarship, we provide the scholarship to the female students, preferably. If the female students are not there, the male students are being given. These are the winners, 2022 recipients. These are the 2023 recipients. And this is another program. It's a DL Shah Trust HSSE Awards in India. These are the winners of the 2023 recipients, basically, who are making a good contributions to the health, safety, and sustainability environment fields. And we also do a lot of outreach knowledge sessions. Basically, Professor Ramana, who is our chair for the student mentoring, and Dr. Lakshmi Narayan is our health and welfare chair, doing a lot of programs on the CPR, first aid, and other things. And today we are launching a one minute. Let me go back to the slides. Yes. Today we are launching the J&A Bharat HSE Foundation, Dr. Praveen Patel and Ms. Mita Patel Scholarship Program, who are based in Arizona. They are willing to support the students who are pursuing the health, safety, environment field in India. Dr. Patel is a retired internist and hospitalist and intensivist, and he's a member of American Medical Association. He's a past board member of the West Tennessee Medical Association. He has done a lot of work in the medical field in US, and of course he's from India but settled in US. and he and his wife Mita Patel have come forward, and using our foundation as a platform, we are launching this particular student scholarship program today. So basically 4 students will be honored per year under this particular program. Professor Ramana is our chair for the students mentoring, and he, as well as Dr. Lakshmi Narayan, will be the facilitators of this particular program in India, and who will be approaching the colleges, identifying the needy students, and recommending to the committee for the scholarship program. And Dr. Praveen, as well as Ms. Smita Patel, we would like to thank them, as well as we would like to appreciate their support to the students in India. And of course, we have the criteria. That criteria will be available in our HSE, our websites as well. Soon we will be announcing this particular program. Today is only the launching. Another important thing we are having today is a scholarship for the PhD program for Indian students in USA. Dr. Jayan Bain Clark she's already on the call, and she came to know about our foundation, and she wanted to use foundation as an opportunity to tell the students, tell the needy people who wants to do the programs in USA, PhD program in USA, particularly focusing on the artificial intelligence. This is the upcoming field. Everybody knows artificial intelligence is not only in other areas, but even in occupational health and safety also there. So Mr. Jitu Patel was very instrumental in specifically talking about Jayan Clark, and she has done a lot of work in the industry, in academic institutions. She has come forward to showcase our this particular scholarship program through our foundation, and we would like to thank her. She is also on the call. We will give her an opportunity to talk to you at the end of the program. Thank you, ma'am, for sharing this particular opportunity. I request our participants to take a screenshot of this particular slide and share with your friends who wants to do the PhD program in US in artificial intelligence. And again, our foundation invites contributions to work on its objectives. And we have the foundation's contribution form on the website. You can always go to the website and share your expression of interest to support our foundation. We do have a governance body. We do have a functional committee members who are regularly supporting to move our foundation activities. So with the same concept, we started this global HSE foundation. Bharat was focusing on India, and we wanted to do much more to the global area. So this was launched on 30th November 2022 by Rixio Medina, and we are expanding our activities around the globe. So again, coming back to the part 2, which is knowledge transfer session, as I was telling that we wanted to support not only the financial, but also the knowledge transfer. That's very much important, very much required. So we have a monthly OKT sessions. We have a around the clock WhatsApp knowledge hub also to support our professionals. So with that, we do every month one specific topic. And this month we are focusing on the code of ethics. So this particular topic will be starting with a brief introduction of the topic and speaker by Mr. Dinesh Patel, who is our chair for the HSE communication and leadership skills. Once Mr. Dinesh introduces the today's speaker as well as the topic, then we will hand over to Mr. James for his presentation. Mr. Dinesh. Please go ahead, Mr. Dinesh.
Thank you very much. Am I audible properly?
Yes, perfect.
Thank you. So first, let me acknowledge the presence of this both founding trustee, Mr. Jitu Patel and Mr. Ashok Garlapati, distinguished speaker, and all other dignitaries present in the meeting. Be honest, fair, and impartial. Act with responsibility and integrity. It is the subject matter of the today's speakers. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's workshop on the ethical challenges faced by the safety professional as we navigate the complexity of our field. Understanding and addressing these ethical dilemmas is crucial for maintaining integrity and fostering a culture of safety and trust. Today, We are privileged to have Mr. James Boretti, brings over 38 years of experience in the safety and health field. He is the CEO and president of Boretti Incorporated, a professional HSE firm offering comprehensive safety, health, and environmental business solutions designed to enhance the success and foster a strong safety culture throughout his career. Mr. James has consulted with a diverse range of the clients and industries, including healthcare, manufacturing, television, construction, and agriculture. His work has led to significant improvement in operational efficiency and productivity, powered insurance rates, reduced the claims frequency, and the ensured OSHA compliance. Mr. James has held the notable position in our organization, such as the past regional vice president of the Region I for the American Society of Safety Professionals. He holds the designation of the Certified Safety Professional, is a professional member of the SSP, and previously served on the SSP Code of the Conduct Committee. Additionally, he has taught the courses in ergonomics and sustainability social compliances at the University of California. Mr. James is knowledgeable in ISO and other non-governmental organization, voluntary, and the marketplace certification for safety and environmental standards. Today's synopsis, this presentation will delve into the ethical challenge faced by the safety professional through interactive scenario, and Mr. James will provide the insight to help better define the gray area of the ethics in the field. Give a round of applause in welcoming our speaker, Mr. James.
Thank you very much. That was a very great introduction. I greatly appreciate it. And it's a pleasure to join you this evening. Really look forward to this. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we will go ahead and get started. So let's get the presentation up. There we go. Okay, so I trust everybody can see the screen. Everything's good.
Yes, perfect.
And as it was introduced, we definitely have an interactive session this evening. And the way we'll do that is if we can use chat to be able to answer some questions. And on occasion, I will ask people if they are willing to unmute and actually have a discussion. So I don't mind questions as we go through this session. That is totally fine. I think we can do this very professionally, and it will give everybody a good idea of what we're really talking about with ethics. And as you said, Dinesh, thank you very much, by the way, for a great introduction here. I have been on the Code of Conduct Committee, which is the Ethics Committee, for over 8 years. I'm no longer a member of that, but certainly there were a number of things that came forward to the committee, and which I'll go ahead and share some of these things with you. So ethics is really kind of a gray area. I know a lot of people like to say it's it's defined, it's very much a definitive type of thing, but what we find as time goes on, that these tend to shift. Even the ASSP, as well as the BCSP and the AIHA, have changed their ethics codes over time. So it is kind of a gray area. And what we need to do is see through this interactive session as to how we can be challenged by this, but how we can actually fall on the proper side of our ethical code and our ethical bound as safety professionals, or HSE professionals. So what we're going to do is do an introduction here. I do have a scenario, and try to define as best we can what ethics really is. We'll also discuss a little bit about standards. This session is not going to be going over any particular standard. It's really how you can kind of check yourself and where is your go-to point to be sure that you're falling on the correct side of where our ethical bounds are. We'll discuss a little bit about dilemmas that lead to these conflicts and the pressures that lead to ethical challenges. as we go about our business of health and safety and environmental professionals. And then how do you manage this? How do you actually analyze what's going on? What can we do for ourselves? And what can we do possibly for our organizations to be sure that we continue to go down the ever-changing ethical bounds that we have? And there are several case studies we have, several of which I've actually been a part of. So I'll explain that as we continue forward. But this evening, I'd like to start out with this. We have a scenario, and this is a real business scenario. This did actually occur. So I'm just going to paraphrase, but it's an interesting case study if you take some ethics in business types of classes. So you're at a hotel, and in fact, you're at a hotel. It's a resort hotel. You're there with your family. Okay? And just to put you into the right context of this, you're the vice president of sales for global organization that actually, markets, sells, and provides a consumable product for people who enjoy it all around the world, many of whom enjoy these actually in restaurants. So with that in mind, here's what happens. While you're there, you decide to get up from the pool. You tell your family, I'm just going to go to the restroom or back to the room for a minute. I'll be right back. And while you're walking by the areas where they have the halls, you find out that your competition, your greatest competition on the global stage, is holding a sales strategy rollout meeting. Now, I'm sure you're kind of curious. Ooh, I wonder what they're discussing. After all, you're the VP of sales global for your company. There is security required to enter. In fact, you need to have a badge in order to enter. And of course, that's through the main entry in and out of the room. But you find that there's one unguarded door that's slightly open. And I think many of us have been to professional development conferences or rollout strategy meetings over the years. And what you find is that when people are going in and out of rooms like that, they tend to do a door on the side. They leave it a little bit unlatched so you don't get that click that you would normally have that might disturb the speaker and the attendees in that room. So you find that door open. So here's the question for you, and I would love to see what you put in the chats here. Do you enter? Yes or no? So I'll hold for just a second and just see what you say. Okay? Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of no's already. Okay, anybody else want to do that? No, no, no. Ah, okay. All right, now think about this. This is business. Okay, this is business ethics that we're talking about here, not related to HSE, but just wanted to see if that made a difference maybe with how some people may have felt about that. So all of you actually that have responded have said, no, you would not enter. Okay, well, this person did. Okay, they entered and said, well, you know what? It is security, allowed only, but it's their problem that they left this door open. I'm just going to sit in the back and just listen to just a little bit of this. Okay, so now you enter, and within the hour that you've been there only, okay, you learn about their strategy, at least enough to know what's going on. And it's going to have a big impact on your organization. Okay, so now that you have that information, what do you do now? So what do you think? Anybody want to unmute and say, this is what I would do with the information, or what I wouldn't do with the information? Or do you want to go ahead and write it into the chats? I'll wait a second here. So please feel free. Okay, what do you do with that information? What do you think? Anyone? Act on it. Ah, okay. I like that.
See, since I decided not to enter, so that is not applicable.
But you do have people who have obviously, this person entered. I like that. Some people say you act on that information. No, you don't. Okay. I mean, it really does. I mean, can you see the grayness that some people will sometimes explain the reason for their actions and why it is okay to do. But see, you can see a number of people say, they're going to plan for a better strategy. They're going to prepare for future strategies accordingly. And quite honestly, in this case, that did happen. Okay, this person who was supposed to be there on vacation in the resort with their family immediately said, look, sorry to the family, I need to get on the phone and start calling. So, and talking to people about what's going on. I can tell you this, the result of that little slip up, even though, it was a guarded type of situation, you had to have the credentials to go in, was devastating to this organization, devastating. They did come up with a different plan. They did come up with a different way about going about doing that. The question is this really, an ethical thing? Should this person have really done that? How many of you feel very uncomfortable? And you can just raise your hand if you want, on the Zoom here. But how many of you would feel very uncomfortable with doing this? Is this really an ethical issue? Yeah, definitely. Okay, a lot of people would. So, yeah, I mean, this is, are you crossing a bound? Some people would say no. Some people would say yes. So, absolutely, it does run into this gray area. And I think this is giving everybody pretty much a good idea as to what we mean. So, how important are ethics in today's society? And I'll give you a little hint that every society, every time period we've had, people have often questioned ethics. So even if you go back 100 years, 200 years, you will find people question ethics of those days. And I think we would all agree that ethics have changed since that time period. Heck, I can remember that ethics have changed in ASSP since I've been a member since 1986. So yeah, there's been a lot of changes that have occurred over the time. And it seems that, are ethics tied to society? Are they tied to a number of different things? Well, let's see if we can't start to define that a little bit more. So I want you to be thinking about this. What does ethics really mean to you? And while we're thinking about these things, I'm going to share some typical responses that sociologist Raymond Baumhart actually says are there. And there are 5 typical responses that people actually bring up. Okay. So they say ethics has to do with what my feelings tell me is right or wrong. Okay. So think about that. What my feelings are saying, this is right. This is wrong. Okay. So that's what they're saying. Ethics has to do with my religious beliefs. Okay. So we're bringing in our foundational things for the spirit that are coming into play here. And that has an ethical bound for which we will behave. Being ethical is doing what the law requires. Okay, so it could be that way, that this is what the law says. Well, okay, we'll talk about these various things as we continue forward here. Ethics consists of the standards of behavior our society accepts. That's interesting. And I think there are some standards that sometimes occur that maybe we kind of are uncomfortable with and we wonder about. So a lot of people also say, I don't really know what the word means, what ethics really means. And I do like what people are saying in the chats here, that, yeah, it's with respect to situation and strategy. Ethics certainly can guide us to make a positive impact through our decisions and actions. I really like that. That's a very good way of looking at it. But let's continue forward as we explore this here. So ethics, if you look at a definition of it, is really kind of a system of principles that govern the appropriate conduct for a person or members of a profession. And of course, in HSE, we have ethics that we are bound by, correct? Does that, come from our feelings? Does it come from the law? Does it come from society? Does it come from religion? That's certainly a challenge to what we might have to really start thinking about. But one thing we know for sure about ethics, and I think that's a great point about the guide aspect of ethics, is that it is designed to foster trust, which is really your integrity, and respect. Okay, and that was also mentioned earlier in the chats as well. So there are 2 things about ethics, okay? It refers to well-founded standards of right and wrong, or at least if we can use that in quotes. And it prescribes what humans ought to do under certain situations, to either depending upon their profession or acting as an individual. You could look at it that way. So you can look at it as rights, you can look at it as obligations, as benefits, fairness, specific types of virtues that come into play. But ethics also refers to the study and development of one's ethical standards. And that's really necessary to consistently examine what your standards really are. And that's where I think, ensures that they are reasonable, they're well-founded. And I think that's why, if we're looking at this, we look at it from the standpoint of what our foundations are, what our profession is, what our actions are within that profession, if that's the way we're going to look at it. And certainly business is a very broad way to look at it. HSE is a subset of that, or should be. Okay, but we have our own ethics that we have. So I'm going to continue forward here, because what sociologist Raymond Baumhart also suggested is this, is that ethics is not a matter of what's right and wrong. It's not a matter of your feelings. Okay, it's really what they find is that a person who follows his or her feelings may recall from doing what's actually right. And in fact, feelings frequently deviate from what is ethical. I mean, you can think about this from the standpoint that we may have been challenged, we may have been conflicted, we may have felt that pressure to kind of overlook something, it'll just be for a short period of time, that maybe it bothers us, but we can explain it, right? I mean, there's a number of decisions, if we look back through history from just HSE alone, where you can see that these decisions were made to explain it away, that it's all okay because nothing has happened. Or maybe we had it wrong with regard to our bound. So there's a number of different things that go into play here. Religion. One should not identify ethics with religion. Ethics applies as much to the behavior of the atheist as well as that of the saint. That's a good point to bring up. What about ethics for someone who does not believe in religion, or does not belong to any religion, or has never been raised with a religion as part of their life? So it's not to say that religion's a bad thing. It's just to say that in our profession, is this something we need to think about? Okay. Law. Being ethical is also not the same as following the law. Laws, like feelings, can deviate from what is ethical. And of course, he uses the example of apartheid, okay, where that was a whole different issue here. And many of us felt that that was not an ethical practice, even during the time frame that it was there. This is what I mean by over time, this changes. I'm sure some of you have also challenged law, saying that certain laws for health, safety, and the environment are out of date, and that we need to change those things in order to bring them up to today's standards and today's expectations. So it's a little bit different there. I'm not suggesting that laws are bad. I'm not suggesting they're good. I'm just suggesting that maybe that's not the end of everything. Okay. Now, society, he also says, being ethical is not the same as doing whatever society expects. And as society, a whole society can become ethically corrupt. And he uses the example of Nazi Germany. So there are a number of different challenges to basing ethics on these other factors that are outside, which is why ethics can be a study, and it's an ongoing study, which I think is very healthy to be able to do. So I like that too. Standard of behavior change from country to country and societies. Yeah. How does one decide what is acceptable? That is a challenge for us, isn't it? Absolutely. So let me see if I can at least give some light to what might be helpful there, okay, with regard to what we can do with our HSE practice, how we behave, how we practice our profession from that standpoint. Before we get to that point, I want to challenge you now from the standpoint of a real case. I was actually involved in this case. It did occur in America. It did happen, and it certainly was there. So please go ahead. You had a question?
James, there is a question in the chat box.
Yes.
Yeah, please.
Go ahead.
It's the question is standard of behavior change from country to country and societies. How does one decide and what is acceptable?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and move forward to try to answer that question as we go through the presentation, but I will come back to it.
Very
So
good.
not a problem, if that's okay with everybody. So just wanted to be sure.
It's fine.
Okay,
Fine, yeah.
good deal. Okay, so first, let me share this. Oh, sorry, this is a study. There is an example coming up here for just a second, but let me just share some things with the study. Okay, and this was done, yes, in the United States, but I just want to kind of share with you and start thinking about this from a business perspective, and this is looking at employees that work within various businesses. Okay, how important is ethics? And you can see that 94% of their responders actually said that it's critical or important in the organization and for the organization for whom they work. Okay, what you can also see is that 82% said they would be paid less and work for a company with ethical practices rather than remain with an organization that did not act in an ethical way. Okay, and then from there, you can see that over 1/3, it actually was 36% have left a job due to unethical practices. They just did not feel right with regard to the practice, or the company or the organization with whom they work for did not act in an ethical way. And you can see that, a lot of this takes up and takes out of productivity here from the standpoint where you spent time talking about it on the job with colleagues. You can see that you found yourself distracted. I mean, look at the number of and the percentage of people that have that. So in kind of formulating an answer of how you address this across different countries, different societies, certainly organizations that are global tend to have ethical bounds and ethical practices that they will go by regardless of what's happening in any of the countries in which they operate. Now, does that mean the challenge is now removed? Absolutely not. You certainly do see that as you move forward. Now, I'm going to share another study, and this was just more recently. This was conducted last year. And again, I recognize this is in the United States, but think about this in terms of your organizations and what you have seen. But 63% of Americans feel that businesses are extremely or somewhat have a positive impact on their lives. Okay, and that means that that's actually increased over the previous year by 8%. So they really look at the organizations they work for as having an extremely or somewhat positive impact on their lives, which shows you the tie that people feel with the organizations with whom they work. So over 80% of Americans feel that it's extremely important that businesses make money in ethical ways and compensate workers fairly. And that about 1/3 of the businesses are doing both. That's what they actually felt. It's actually about 31% of the respondents that felt that way. Okay. And you can see that by age, and this is what's coming in our new generations coming through the workforce, the talent that we're recruiting now for the future, that 71%, in the age bracket of 18 to 29 said they're going to leave a job if the company, for the company's values with regard to ethics. So again, I recognize this is the United States. I recognize that this is, within one country, but you can think about this in terms of how business is conducted globally as to whether or not this actually is a good reflection. I think it's at least a start in looking at it with there. So with that in mind, let's continue forward here about the impact. And this is the situation that I was involved with. Okay, so you have an HSE professional. Okay, so you can imagine this person started with an insurance brokerage. That's not uncommon, I don't believe. That there are many safety professionals or HSE professionals who started with insurance brokerages or insurance companies. After a while, this individual formed their own company and partnered with an industry group. And specifically, it was a construction industry group that they partnered with. Okay. They befriended Cal OSHA. So now this is in the state of California in the United States here. But they befriended a number of Cal OSHA enforcement officials. So what happened was they knew these people who were compliance officers, they knew the manager of those compliance officers, and they knew the assistant director for enforcement for the state of California. So I want to give you at least the structure and what was going on here. So they had that person on speed dial. Now, this gives you an idea. This was a little while ago. Today, we know and just tend to hit the phone, the smartphone, by the name of the person we're trying to call. But back then, you know, you had a number of different entries, up to 30 or 33 different entries you could do that would be speed dial. And you knew number one was to so-and-so, number two was to so-and-so, and so on. But whenever they were in public, there were displays of affection, hugs, kisses, that kind of thing, a lot of befriending, you know, things that you would have that if you have a very close friend, these are things that you would do. They also befriended the industry group members, leaders of that group. They attended weddings. They were there at births of children's, baptisms, and gave, you know, gifts, those kinds of things. So, any issues so far? Do you see any ethical issues at this point? So, just go ahead and answer in the chat. Yes, no, anything you see a little bit that's uncomfortable? What do you think? Yeah. No, not to all, not all. Okay, good. Not at all. Got it. Yes. So there are some people who see some things here. So what would it be that you see as an issue or, you know, from an ethical perspective? Just go ahead and write it, or if you want to unmute, go ahead and state it. What would you say? What makes you feel uncomfortable? The influencing part. So there's kind of that befriending and that being affectionate and having that speed dial. There could be an influential issue here that could lead to possibly a conflict. So there could be some pressure here that would lead to that point. Okay, good point. Now, I just want to let you know they did add 2 more people to their business to help. Okay, so nothing wrong with adding 2 people to help. I think that's good. The person was having their organization grow. So that's not necessarily a bad thing here. Okay, so yeah, got it. Clients observed, this is one of now the customers saying this, that there was a high cost of training. So there was $5,000 per person for annual certification training, okay, that went on. There was a habit of not showing up after collecting the money, but promises to make it up. And the individual, to their credit, did do that. They did come back. So part of those trainings, right, they were not providing handouts there. And they parlayed that friendship, and this may be the influencing that you're talking about, that whole part about that was put up there in the chat with regard to an obligation to help. They befriended that friendship with OSHA to, I can help you reduce fines for citations. And they knew of a list that OSHA had on them, meaning they knew of a list on the company that they were actually doing the work with. So anyone feel there's any ethical issues here so far? What do you think? Go ahead and answer in the chat if you would. Yes, no, explain a little bit if you wish. Not a problem. So please go ahead. No? Okay, yes, there is an issue. Okay, helping to reduce fines is an issue. Okay. Okay. So just to let you know, I know in the United States that there are a lot of HSE professionals that work in different, you know, areas that profess they can reduce fines for their clients. So they actually use that as a marketing tool. So that's interesting. You know, I know how you feel about it. I got you. I'm not saying yes or no. But transparency issues, yes, you know, promises made, not delivered. I would have an issue with that too. I think that's definitely looking at the company and looking at what their service is and whether or not they're providing what should be. Okay, was the OSHA list in public domain? If not, it's definitely an issue. You bring up a very good point, because that is actually a legal concern that OSHA is, you know, if you're aware that they're coming either some way or another, you're not supposed to know. You're not supposed to know what they're looking at. The only way you would have anything in a public domain would be if there's a focused area for which OSHA is looking at. And they say this year we want to focus on, as an example, dairy processors, because we see an increased level of certain types of injuries that we would like to study, find out why they're happening and what we can do from a regulatory and an outreach standpoint to help get those reduced so we don't continue that. So that might be there, but they usually use a North American industrial classification system code. So yeah, that's a very good point to bring up with regard to that. Now, there's one more part to this, okay? So this professional had the two gentlemen, the two additional people, act as Cal OSHA officials, and they would confirm the list and the costs that were there. So we already know right here, right now, that this is now a legal issue. This is now illegal. Unless you are an enforcement officer or you are part of Cal OSHA, no one can act in that way for anything like this. So we know that. Okay, they opened a bank account, and this was the bank account, O.S.H.A. Okay, now in the United States, in the banking system, there are certain types of accounts that are not allowed to be opened up for any reason unless, you know, there's something that's coming from the government. And that usually is definitely directed by the government with the bank, not individuals like that. So this right here, we now know that the bank was unknowingly helping to support this, as you can imagine, fraud that's coming. And the way this person used to say is that, hey, look, I'll come out here, I'll take a look at this, and I'll go around. I know the list that they have on here. I can negotiate with these individuals to reduce those fines down. You can then pay. See, you're not paying me, you're paying OSHA, and therefore it's legit and it's on the up and up. And you can see it was estimated because the two detectives that actually looked into this fraud discovered that it was at least $825,000 that was collected in 10 months. They never were able to trace all the money and where it went. So now you know that they're involved. Okay, we got involved because it was tipped off with an invalid OSHA 10 card. So in the United States, when you do OSHA 10 authorized training, it's actually OSHA that issues those cards. You are, as the authorized instructor, required to provide them with the list of people who went through the course, were there the entire time, got at least 10 hours of training with regard to this, that you show them your certificate to show, and you also give them an outline of the class that you did, but you also give them the attendee contact so they can call and audit anybody that you want. And one client called the other company, that was us, asking how much we charge for replacement cards. And I said, we don't, because OSHA is the one that issues those, not the company that's doing the training. That led to a whole investigation. And I can tell you that through a number of states, they finally caught the individual. The U.S. Marshals did in Texas. Okay, that person ended up serving 5 years. I think we can all agree we've gone well beyond ethics issues here. It's not just an ethical issue here. We have a legal issue here. Okay, and I'm not saying the ethics and legal are exactly the same, because many of you pointed out that there were some things going on with regard to transparency, with regard to being ethical, saying that, hey, I have a list. I know of this list that OSHA has. I actually met this individual. They actually came into one of our clients and said that they were a partner with the Department of Labor in the United States, and that they could act on behalf of OSHA, and they had some certificate. When I did the investigation, I found that was not the case, and we tried to trace that person back down. But you can see, you're right, ethics really does matter. Somebody here did not follow their ethical bounds as a safety professional. I think we'd all agree with that. But think about this, what that kind of behavior has. Think about the impact to other HSE professionals. Think about what that did with regard to integrity, that trust, that respect that people both working in the organizations, right, as an HSE manager or an HSE specialist or any of that, as well as somebody who is an HSE professional working for an insurance company or having their own consultation practice, and even being a member of the enforcement agency. This created a situation where there were a number of people that were questioned by their bosses. There were a number of people when they came out to do accident investigations or anything from Cal OSHA, where people questioned it because, hey, this had occurred here. Think of the damage that does to us. We now have a barrier to have to overcome because someone did not follow their ethics and actually went well beyond that point. Think about what that does for the HSE profession. People were asking, how do you police yourselves? How do you know people are ethical? How can you, where do you go to determine those things? And a lot of people don't realize that the American Society of Safety Professionals actually does have the Code of Conduct Committee. That has been reformed. It's been redone to even be more robust. We know BCSP has it. We know AIHA has it. There are a number of other HSE professional organizations that have ethical committees. Okay, and now think about what that does to HSE and organizations. Okay, again, there were so many people that questioned, so many safety managers who had been educated, gone through that class, that it was questioned as to whether or not they really knew and understood their profession and what they learned. Was it really real? What can they compare it to? So for 18 months to 24 months, this was how it was within the central part of California, where people were constantly questioning. It took a lot of work on behalf of a number of different organizations, a number of us, to actually try to overcome that. So the respect, that whole thing that you're talking about, absolutely. Okay. Now, where do ethics really come from? They manifest themselves from codes and standards. That's the organizational part. Okay, but they also manifest themselves from the actions and the behaviors. That's the personal part. Okay, and this is where that conflict, this is where that pressure, when you're practicing in different countries and different societies, start to come into play. Because, should this apply here where maybe, all around us, we're seeing a society that's very loose with regard to ethical bounds? Okay, and that really starts to become a personal question as well. So with that, here's what I offer to you as a way to always recenter yourself. If you have one of the certifications from BCSP, we know there are ethical bounds there. Go back and revisit. When was the last time you took a look at the ethics, the code of ethics that BCSP has? How about AIHA? We know AIHA requires an ethics class. What is it? Every cycle, I think every 4 years or something like that, that you must take in order to maintain your certification. I think that's great because it forces you to look back. ASSP is also toying with the same idea. Many of us had our code of ethics that we looked at when we first signed up to become a member of ASSP, and many of us have not looked at it since. Now, I can say I have only because I've been part of the Code of Conduct Committee, and yeah, there's been a lot of things that I've seen come through. But even with that, we know times change, but this is a great place for yourself to come back. BCPSP, 5 years, got it. So the way to come to center and really kind of center yourself for your behavior, your actions, even being able to influence your organization on the proper way of being able to conduct business from an HSE perspective, can come back to these ethical bounds that we have, that where there may be the absence of it elsewhere. And that can go across broad areas. Okay, so I know, working with a global electronics manufacturer based out of the United States with factories all around the world, that they long ago decided that they were going to practice the way they felt ethics was the best for their industry, which they have an industry group which does come up with it. They've trained all their managers regardless of country they're in, and all of the safety professionals they employ throughout the globe are taught that this is the area we practice in regardless of the country. We know it can make it more difficult to do business in certain areas, but we are not willing to sacrifice that. So as a result, you can imagine that some countries, people really want to work for this organization. So you can imagine that. That, I think, is another way that helps to bridge and affect, and deal with the challenges that you face from country to country that you may be practicing your HSE profession in. So hopefully this is starting to help by answering that question, because I don't think there's just one solid answer to that question. I think it really is both an organizational and personal construct that needs to be put into place in order to make that happen. Now, I am asking this question here, so please in the chat, are HSE professionals expected to uphold a higher degree of ethical standards, behaviors, and practices? You agree with that? You say yes, say no. Yeah, let's see what people are answering. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Okay. Remember, I told you this is a gray area. So I'm going to have a little bit of fun with this with regard to that, because, I'm glad that people are thinking this way. I want you to think about why or why not. Are we supposed to uphold a higher degree of ethical standards? Within the safety profession, I think yes. But overall, that should blend with everything else we do and not necessarily be higher. And I will challenge that, because these are the kinds of things we saw on the Code of Conduct Committee. So think about this as you see here. So what happens if none of us live up to some of us don't live up to that ethical standard? Suppose people participate in a public demonstration that results in vandalism and violence. Now what? Now what should happen, right? Okay, surrounding the environment, yeah. Okay, so think about that. I'm not saying the HSE professional who was there on their own time, not acting in the area of a safety practitioner, not being part of their organization, I'm not saying they did the vandalism or the violence. They could have been 2 miles away and never even known about it until they heard about it from friends or a news source. Okay, so what about this as well? Okay, someone breaks a law, speeding. We know that's an unsafe practice. Okay, committing a violent crime. I think each one, if you look at, many people around the globe speed when they have an opportunity. We know it's against the law. We know it can be something, that can be a challenge from a safety perspective. A violent crime, that's a different story, right? So yeah, these are things we actually came up with. Oh, the stories I could tell you, but we're bound. So anyway, how about someone who cheats on their wife or their husband? Okay, we've actually had that come up as an issue in front of the Code of Conduct Committee for people who are safety professionals and members of ASSP. Okay, suppose you cheat on your wife, you cheat on your husband. This is a societal thing, right? Suppose they refuse to do something to save someone based upon a religious belief. See the challenges that we now face as a result from this kind of thing. Now the questions become, what are the consequences? Okay, and I think when you're looking at it from a safety professional standpoint, an HSE professional, what you really have to look at is, while all these things may make you uncomfortable, may make you look at this from a safety professional and say, absolutely not, this is the line, and that will vary depending upon you and the way you look at things, okay? The question is, did it violate a code in the profession? Okay, do some of these things then say, if it did not, should this be something that should be looked at and maybe revised in the code of the profession? So when you're looking at yourself with regard to HSE ethics, the real question starts coming up. Let me recenter myself as a professional and look at what my practice bound is. And if I do think something needs to change here because times are changing and that needs to be caught up, we need to now start letting people know so that we look at this and start making a change. See, all of these start breaking into an area of gray. But what I'm offering to you as a way to kind of recenter yourself and help yourself as a HSE professional is to actually look at your code of ethics from which you are bound and really then start considering what you're doing. Okay. So now another question for you. Is this true? The ends justify the means. What do you think? Yes, no? Go ahead and answer one way or the other on that. So is this true? The ends justifies the means. Okay. I mean, I can tell you, and I know people are going to be answering here shortly, that many would argue no, but many would also argue yes. And the reason why they would say yes is a number of different things. They would give the idea that, look, yeah, I know it wasn't really right the way I did this. I know I violated a number of different things as a result of it, but look at the result. It's better than what we wanted. And they'll challenge it saying that the other things are outdated. This is why. Okay. So it depends on the consequences. That's an interesting perspective to take. I think it depends on the actions and the behaviors you need to take in order to make this happen. Okay. So I think that's a real big thing, with regard to it here. Depends on the situations of the case, and it very well could. Right. So this is where it leads to the dilemma. Okay. And if you look at it from the dilemma, it's really situations, in which there's really a choice to be made between two options, neither of which resolve the situation in ethically acceptable fashion. And that means we now face pressure and we have a conflict. And that's where the ethical dilemma comes into place. And many times that happens because we either think this is a violation of a law or we don't feel this is right. Okay. And it comes from within rather than looking at the situation from the outside looking in. Okay. And that starts leading to the point of the challenges here. Okay. The conflicts and the pressures here that you have are between two things. Okay. It's the personal interests. In other words, what are the benefits of the actions here? And that can lead us to compromise or bias our judgment and our objectivity with looking at that situation. Okay. But it also looks at the organizational interests, right? What's the benefit that is gained from that influence? Okay. What happens here? And that means there could be an involvement of abuse. It could be actual, it could be apparent, or it could be potential of the trust that people have in the people and the organization. Remember, the organization is a thing. It's the people within it that make the organization thrive. Okay, that's why from an HSE professional, looking at all the human resources in there, they really are resources. They have the skills, the knowledge, and the wherewithal to make that organization successful. And that's what we're here about, is that protection of those kinds of things. So with that in mind, I'm going to ask this question before we start getting into the point of how you might go about doing this. And you're very right, the process is very important. And that's what we'll jump into after that. Okay, but have you ever contacted a regulatory authority? Doesn't matter what country you're in, but is there a regulatory authority to address something that your employer, or if you're a consultant or insurance representative, that your client won't? Have you ever done that? Think about that. In the United States, we look at it as, this person's not going to do it. Should I contact OSHA because, I need to get something that does it right? Okay. So yeah, some people, yes, some people no. Is this an ethical issue? Because some people say it is. There are certain criteria here that needs to remain secret for our organization, and that's going to reveal that secret, and that could be a problem. And the question now becomes, should you? Well, start thinking about it from an HSE perspective, okay? Because your dilemma is this. The potential conflict is, will I get in trouble? Will I lose my job? Will I lose my raise? Or will I lose my promotion because I did this? Okay, and we know that there are people out there who contact regulatory authorities who are not just HS&E professionals because they say, you know what, I need to get the attention. And they're always worried that they're going to be found out and this will happen to them. So that becomes that dilemma. If I do this, this could be the outcome. If I don't do this, it could be very harmful for an individual or a group of individuals. So the other thing is, you know, what I see is wrong and someone could get hurt but hasn't, and the company says to report these things, I'm supposed to bring it up. They say that in policy. They say that in our trainings. But when I see other people do it, what happens? See that dilemma, that conflict, how it now becomes, yeah, there you go. I like that, Ram. That was good. You know, the heat wave and people are not reducing workout. Oh my goodness, that's so current. You're very right. Okay, but that's the point, right? You see it, but the minute that someone reports something and management handles it poorly is the last time you get any kind of action, any kind of reporting on this that can be better. So the process for analyzing should really be looking at these three things here, okay? Is the person subject to conflict of interest codes? In other words, is it covered by a virtue of the position or the role? We as HSE professionals have code of conduct, and certainly there can be a conflict of interest with regard to those codes. So we definitely have, you know, the opportunity here to be ethical or not, okay? Secondly, is there a financial interest or another benefit? And that other benefit would be, what's the outcome for me and what's the positive outcome for the organization? Well, nothing's ever happened, so I can explain it away, okay? And the third thing is, does the benefit flow to a conflicted party? In other words, that conflicted party is the organization, and as a result of me not doing this, guess what? The organization doesn't get in trouble, unless, of course, that person gets killed or seriously injured, right? But that's not going to happen because it's never happened. This really challenges us. The idea here is to be honest when you're analyzing this, fair, think in terms of justice. What's the right thing? Okay. And impartial, meaning be objective. Okay. That's correct. I really like what you're writing here. Wrong is wrong, even if everyone is doing it. That is right on with what the sociologist Raymond Baumart said. And definitely, I agree with regard to that. These three things are the best way you can use to analyze this and kind of check yourself. See, how you go about correcting the situation is the challenge we face with all our organizations, with all of our situations with regard to HSE anyway. It's really about how we approach it. You know, it's not that we can't be, we have to be unethical in certain situations. How we address it is what makes the biggest difference with regard to it. So ethics in HSE, and this is from Tom Krause, he wrote about this many years ago in Professional Safety Journal, okay, suggests that an HSE program can be the starting point for building an ethical organization, and it really can. Okay, a lot of people around the world know of Paul O'Neill, who took over Alcoa when Alcoa was having a tremendous amount of injuries, in fact, a tremendous amount of fatalities around the world. And what he stated was the way he's going to bring that company back to profitability and make it perform better is to have the safest company in the world. He understood how the elements to manage and run and continue to evolve a HSE program is the same set of skills you need to do for an organization. And so a safe workplace lays the foundation for this to occur, for organizational excellence, and you can see the integrity that's involved in the strategic, financial, and operational performance. Okay, and here are the principles that are behind all of this that Tom puts out there, espouses. That there's a value for human life, that there's the belief of preservation and protection supersedes other goods. I have seen too many times in my career where a high-level person in an organization who has all that knowledge in their head is killed in the job and the organization fails. That you can't put a price on that. Okay, that's really where it comes from. The integrity is the commitment to telling the truth and keeping the promises. And that is what results in worker loyalty and cooperation and being part of the organization itself, okay, and their commitment that you're looking for. Justice, that strong sense of fair dealing, establishes that trust, that integrity that we're looking for. It's how we actually execute that part that makes the difference, okay? The good of the many, that excellence stems from the concern for achievement to our common good. Okay, when employees actually see that they're doing something together, they may have disagreements with each other, but they understand that what they're doing is for the common good, they definitely get on board. And that's where excellence comes to thrive. Okay, the belief of the degree of safety or integrity achieved, always the opportunity to improve. Safety can definitely point out areas within organizations. I think we all know this, that upon which are challenges for problems and challenges. And as a result of, getting to these challenges, solving these challenges, making a safer workplace makes for a better organization, better performance with regard to it. It's the outcome of it, all by using that. So the way we get to these principle-driven cultures is procedural justice. If they make decisions in fair ways, workers follow without fear. I think we can see that happens. If you work for someone and they're fair about the way they handle things, okay, I may not agree with this, and it affects me in a way that, I don't really like, but you know what? They're correct. I can see what's going on. We're not breaking any ethical bounds. Yeah, we're good to go. People will follow without fear. They know they can make a mistake without being in trouble. They know they can challenge something without being in trouble. Open and candid upward communications really does make a difference, even if it's bad news. If leaders and supervisors respond well to that within organizations, then ethical issues are likely to surface before becoming a crisis. It's much easier to solve that small problem instead of waiting until it blows up in our face, so to speak. The inclination of workers to approach peers on sensitive issues. In other words, they feel a camaraderie with their coworkers to be able to tell them, hey, you know what? Hold on, time out. Here's a better way of doing this. Or, you know what? Taking that shortcut could be a problem, not just from a safety perspective, but from a business ethical perspective, all of those things. Okay, two more things to consider here is that the perceived organization support for espoused values. In other words, if employees see leaders demonstrating, doing what you say you're going to do, acting within those ethical bounds, they're more likely to respond in kind. They feel it's safe to do so. They don't feel uncomfortable to working within an area that may not necessarily be ethical. Okay, and then management credibility, that people who see managers and leaders as being credible are more likely to take personal responsibility for their performance. All of this around the whole ethics component. Okay, so do you, as an HSE professional, play a role? I mean, what do you think? Absolutely, right? I think we would all agree that, and maybe more than we realize, but we're not held to a higher standard. Okay, we're held to the standard for which our profession is. Okay, and within our profession, we seek a high standard. Okay, but overall, that is equal to where we all should be with ethics within our organizations, period. If the ethics in the organization are not up to our standard, that's when we start having questions about whether or not we want to continue to work for that organization, whether or not we need to influence that organization. Absolutely. Okay, so as I wrap this up, you can see what ethics really stands for. Okay, when you're looking at these situations, and you are challenged, I know, we all are, pretty much every day as an HSE practitioner. Okay, evaluate the actual facts. Take a step back, be objective. Think about the conflict presented. Okay, and then how many principles apply? Then identify the applicable codes in the code sections. If you really have a challenge with that, it's okay to go back and look at what you're bound by for your certification, for your membership, all of that as a professional. Compare with the different options that might be there. That's the approach. Okay, and then select the best one under the circumstances. So it's the approach that makes that difference. And remember, ethics really is all about being committed to safety for its own sake. Okay, not safety for compliance or profits. Those kind of things are there. Those are tools. Those are things we use as a way of engaging people to show and understand that safety is an integrated component within the organization with regard to the various risks that it faces. But most of all, it's really there for its own sake. We're there for the preservation of human resources, because without them, we're just not going to have a successful organization. Okay. So with that in mind, I do open it up to any questions at the moment. And what I'll do is I'll say thank you real quick. I'm going to unshare my screen, and then we will go from there. So please, Ram, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, James. Yep. Thank you, James, for that wonderful
Thank you.
non-ethics. Of course, our people have got a wonderful idea about the ethics, especially focusing on the HSE professionals. And I'm sure everybody has got any their feedback on the chat box itself during the proceedings. If anybody else has got any questions, so they can raise their hand, and of course they can open their mic and raise their hand. I'll open their mic. Yeah, I can call them. Yes, Ram Kumar, quickly, please. Yeah. Yes, please go ahead, Ram Kumar.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can't hear Ram Kumar.
You have to unmute, Ram Kumar.
Good evening, sir. Thank you, Mr. James, for the wonderful presentation and informative session on ethics. And thank you, Ashok, sir, and Jitu Bhai. My question is, why we only, and all the organizations and the corporate has given importance to the values more than the ethics? Thank you.
Ooh, wow. Why? Oh, let me see if I can paraphrase this, and Ram, just let me know if I've missed this a little bit. But you're asking the question of why people have valued more of the organization rather than the ethics itself. Is that correct? Is that my understanding?
Yes, sir. You're right. 100%. Yes, Mr. James. Thank you.
I think, oh my gosh, this is my opinion. There are many studies out there, and there are many studies that say that that's an incorrect view that we have within the organizations. But my opinion is because there are a number of stakeholders that are involved with many different organizations. So depending upon the size of the organization, the larger the footprint, typically the larger not the influence, but the larger the impact is for the outcome of what that organization does. And I think what happens there is it depends on which group of stakeholders is really being the noisiest, and as a result gets what they want from the results. They're not looking at it from the same perspective that, say, we are, or other people within the organization themselves. And as a result, I think this is why you end up with a difference between the values of the organization and what you end up with regard to ethical dilemmas that then come into play. That leads into the conflict. And many times, many of us on the outside looking in from that perspective and that relationship that exists with those stakeholders can see this coming before it actually becomes a real problem. And then everybody says, oh, well, you know what, sorry, now we'll go ahead and start making a change. I apologize. I don't mean to, say anything bad about Boeing as an example. I think that's a prime example right now. But many, many, many people saw this coming years ago. That this was happening because the value was shifted from one point to another within the organization Now they're struggling to bring that back. And I think that when it did that, they actually did break their ethical bounds that they had as an organization at that time, which placed the value squarely on the value of the person, the value of safety within the engineering and the product build, and all of those. And that from that outcome would come good financial results. Instead, it appears to me what they did is change it to maximizing financial results the best way possible. And they explained it. You know, we talked about this with conflict. They explained it by saying, well, we're maximizing your results. See, there are no accidents that are occurring. There are no issues. And I think we all knew sooner or later that was going to come up. So I use that as an example to maybe express that. So sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. Another quick question, if I may allow to. May I?
Sure.
Yes,
Thank you.
good question. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. I believe, and I have seen and witnessed for the past 27 years or 25 years in my HSE profession, Mr. James and Ashokji, there are whistleblowers who are always on the top. Perhaps they are the most hurt people because they have high standards of ethics. Am I correct? Yes or no? Thank you. You may have your own explanation. Thank you, sir.
How do I put this? Okay, I'll just say in short answer. I agree. I see that. Okay,
Yes.
it's because there's a difference between what they state and what they actually practice internally. Not only that, I think there's also a flaw in the metric, in the measure of what really should be. And since organizations and people actually within organizations tend to go with where they're measured, as a result, I think that's why you see that difference. I know that there has been at least, I don't know if it's globally, but I do know in North America, there has been a lot of discussion about changing that metric. Now the issue becomes, how do you define the metrics so that they align? And I think there's going to be some pushback before we actually start to see that change. So that's kind of my perspective on it. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, it helped me a lot. And it's a short, courage, confidence, care, and well-read people who take up on the code, standard practices, and the best practices who are persuaded they have become a world leader who care our community and society. Thank you, sir. Well explained. Over to you.
Thank you too. Ashok, you need to unmute.
Yeah, there's a lot of celebrations going on here, so I just kept mute. Thank you, James, and thank you, Ram Kumar, for asking the questions as well as posting in the chat box. Very active and informative session on the ethics, which is very much required. And on behalf of both our foundations, we would like to would like to recognize our special subject matter expert, James Boretti, CEO and President of Ms. Boretti Incorporation USA, for delivering a technical session virtually on insight into ethical challenges faced by global HSE professionals and define them through interactive discussions. I think we had a very good interaction, James, today. Would like to thank you for with this virtual recognition today, and appreciate your support. As we announced in the agenda, we have a brief quiz.
Thank you.
Questions, about 10 questions, which our chair for the HSE Digital Tools and Innovation, Mr. Prabish, he'll be conducting this particular quiz program. Mr. Prabish, I made you as a co-host. You are requested to go ahead and share the quiz questions and the format itself. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ashok sir.
James, it will take about 10 minutes. I'm sure
and
the time
thank
is
you very
valuable.
much,
Please
Mr.
be there. Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Prabish.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Ashok ji, and thank you very much, Mr. James, for this wonderful section. And definitely, this is a very narrow path, ethics, in our HSE professional career. We many times, we want to be ethically correct, but sometimes we won't be able to do that. So that is our profession. It's a very narrow line for us, all the HSE professionals. Hope we will be able to implement the things currently on our life and even in our professional things. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. I will be just sharing our HSE quiz competition now. So we actually have 12 questions because normally we add 2 questions from our foundation also regarding the foundation. So we have
10 questions.
12 questions will be there for this section. So what you have to do, I hope everybody can see this screens, and I will share the game pin and everything in the chat box also. So if you are from the desktop, just to go to any browser, type hsecharm.com/sport and put your pin number. Otherwise, I will be just pressing this QR code. Take your mobile phone, just scan this QR code, and it will take you directly to the quiz page. You can just scan this QR code, and please mention your names correctly, so that at the end of the section you will be able to download a certificate. Yes. If you are joining through any browser, a desktop or a laptop, I just put the link and the game pin on our chat box. So you can just copy paste over there.
So give 1 more minute for them to join. So
yeah, I'm just sharing the music. The music was missing. So just share the music now.
The music, you reduce the volume.
Yeah. We have 11 participants joined till now.
Let's go ahead. No problem. Maybe too late in India now. So yeah.
Yeah, it's almost 10 o'clock in India. I
Yeah.
will just
start the quiz. Yeah.
We will just wait for 2 more persons. So we'll be having 15 now. So now
Yeah.
it is 13 now. Yeah. You can just scan this
QR code. Yeah.
Yeah, you can just scan this QR code. Okay, everyone. So you don't want to look on this screen, on this particular Zoom screen. The questions will come on the game screen, that is on your mobile phone or on the browser. So you don't want to look over here anywhere on the Zoom screen. So we are going to start now. You will be having 20 seconds to answer. So fastest answer who is answering, they will be getting more marks. So everybody ready? 1, 2, 3, start. Great. So we are moving to question number. This is one of the wonderful theme, the concept of and it's a wonderful one. Great. So we are moving to question number 3 now. Great. So question number 4 on your screens now. Questions are from what Mr. James has covered today. So we are moving to question number 5 now. Okay, this was one of the. So we are moving to the 50% of the questions now. So question number 6 on your screens. Right. So we have after 6th question, we have Puneet, Vishnu, Jeevan Kumar on the podium. Let's see question number 7 on your screens now. Yeah, only one answer for this question, Saransh. Wonderful. Good. Hope you are not recording the sections and you are listening. Wonderful. Question number 8 on your screens now.
Saransh is amazing guy.
Eight. So we are moving to last 3 questions. Question number 9 on your screens. Now. Okay, we got 10 answers for these questions. Very good. Wonderful. Question number 10 on your screens now. So wonderful. Vishnu, now there is a podium change. Vishnu, Saransh, Ashok Gulapati, and Vadru Puneet. Wonderful. So we have 2 more questions. Fastest fingers, 20 seconds. Question number 11 on your screens now. Great. 7 people answered that. Wonderful. So last question, dears. Last question. Saransh, Vishnu, Ashokji. Wonderful. So the last questions on your screens. Ready? 1, 2, 3 now. Fastest fingers. Right answer wins.
Gone.
So great. So we have Vishnu on the first place. We have Saransh, and we have Daisy and Puneet on the third place. So hope everybody got your certificate. You can download your certificate from the mobile or the dashboard. Certificates are already available over there. You can download the certificates and kindly post it on our your social media pages and tagging J&A Foundation, HSE Camp, and Mr. James also for this wonderful section. Thank you very much, and over to Ashok ji. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabis ji, and it's very amazing participation today. Of course, it's late in India, but yeah, very active participation. Thank you, James, for being here today, and we have a next special message from Mr. Dinesh Kumar, who is our chair for HSE Communication and Leadership Skills. So, Mr. Dinesh ji, please go ahead. Would you like me to play the video?
Thank you very much, Ashokji. This is just about the intro of the Toastmasters, where I am the member, and especially that help the Toastmasters to develop the communication and the leadership skill, which most of the members, I can say, HSE safety professional or other professional too, have the glossophobia to speak on the public. With that, the Toastmasters help that I made the one video, and just we are going to start the next Toastmasters year from July 1st. So if any safety professional is interested to join the club, can contact to me. You can play the video, sir.
Yeah.
According to the 2015 Chapman University Survey of American Fears, public speaking ranks as the second highest reported personal anxiety fear behind reptiles and just ahead of heights. My name is Dinesh Kumar Pal, and I have been a proud member of ASSP Kuwait Toastmasters Club since October 2018. A dynamic community where growth, empowerment, and self-discovery thrive. Over the years, I have served in various leadership roles: Vice President Education, Club President, and even Area 19 Director. But what truly sets this club apart is its commitment to the enhancing the public speaking skills. At SSP Kuwait Toastmasters Club, we believe that great speakers are made, not born. Our supportive environment is the perfect place to conquer your fear of public speaking, develop your communication prowess, and gain invaluable leadership skills. Toastmaster is more than just a club. It is a journey of personal growth, empowerment, and the skills you acquire here are not just limited to the meeting. They will make a positive impact on every aspect of your life. When I first walked through the doors, I never imagined the transformation that awaited me. Toastmasters helped me discover a confidence I didn't know I had, and it opened the doors I never thought possible. From conquering the stage, achieving the leadership excellence, the ASSP Kuwait Toastmasters Club has a track record of turning ordinary people into extraordinary communicators and leaders. So are you ready to embark on your journey of self-improvement? Join us at the Kuwait Toastmasters Club and unlock your full potential. Don't let the fear of speaking hold you back. Join us, and together we will step into a world of endless possibility. ASSP Kuwait Toastmasters Club, where your voice becomes a catalyst for a change. And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dinesh, and we'll be posting in our WhatsApp group also, so people can contact Mr. Dinesh for more information and how to join the Toastmasters Club. With that, we'd like to just thank our supporters as well as the knowledge donors through our foundation. And of course, there are so many OKT sessions we have conducted. This is the 29th, and many are in the pipeline. And these are our WhatsApp group ambassadors whom we always thank. And we also have a arrangement or collaboration with the professional organizations and HSE Champ, Center for HSE, as well as we do the Global HSE Championships. And we also have the podcast or the video podcast. And we have upcoming OKT sessions on 24th July from Dr. Varsha Reddy, UK, occupational health. And this thing is coming up. And I think screen is gone. Yeah. And it's on 24th July. And the next one is coming up on the 31st OKT is coming up on the track your carbon footprint to adopt sustainability practices, saving costs and contributing to the nation's net zero goals by Mr. Bhaskaran from Singapore, which is on 21st August. And with that, we would like to invite Mr. Bala for our, who is our chair for the honors and awards, to give his concluding remarks. This is a flipbook QR code where you can just scan our activities and links to our earlier OKT sessions. Mr. Bala?
Thank you, sir. Hope I'm audible.
Yeah, perfect. Yes.
On behalf of the foundations, we are grateful to the donors thus far. We are extremely grateful to all the philanthropists for their generous donations to both the foundations, as mentioned earlier. Mr. James Boretti, we cannot thank you both enough for delivering such an outstanding presentation on a very wonderful topic on ethics part to make a difference across the HSE professionals. So thank you very much, Mr. James. Our sincere appreciation to our honored guests for their presence and esteemed support to the mission of the JNDA Foundation. The ongoing support of JNDA Foundation's functional chairs to the Foundation's mission is of immense value to these charitable HSE foundations. Thank you very much. We are indebted to all the delegates for attending this 29th OKT session. Your active support is extremely important to make such sessions delightful, successful, and participative. Friends, we invite you all to take time to visit the foundation website and complete the form showing your willing interest to support the foundations for a noble cause mission towards safe workplace and the community. No contributions are ever too small. A small step begins for a long innings. Once again, and also I extend a sincere thanks to Mr. Dinesh Kumar Pal as well as Mr. Prabesh for things happening in this OKT session. Once again, thank you for sparing your valuable time for making the event a great success. Together, we would prevail and make a difference in our nations. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, Bala, and for your vote of thanks as well as the support of our foundations. And we will always achieve better, and more together. Everyone achieves more. So we'll have a brief, chit chat or the networking session. And let me stop the recording so that